I'm going to read Who Was Abraham Lincoln? This book is by Janet B. Pascal. And it is illustrated by John O'Brien. Here is the table of contents. So the first chapter is Who Was Abraham Lincoln? The second chapter is Life in a Log Cabin. The third chapter is The Wider World. The fourth chapter is A Member of Congress. The fifth chapter is The Great Debater. The sixth chapter is Mr. President. The seventh chapter is Civil War. The eighth chapter is the end of slavery. The ninth chapter is a 2-minute speech. Then next is The War is Won. After that is Farewell to the President. Then is Gettysburg Address. Then is Timelines. And last is bibliography, I think. I'm not a good pronouncer at words. But this is for David and Susan, who are pretty good with their X's. Who was Abraham Lincoln? April 11th, 1865. After 4 terrible years, the American Civil War, the war between the North and the South, was almost over. Now it was clear that the North would win. President Abraham Lincoln had fought the war to prevent the rebel South from leaving the Union. He wanted the country to stay one country, the United States of America. From the window of the White House, the president addressed the big crowd. Here's the picture. Here's the paper. Below, his 12-year-old son, Tad, was at his feet, collecting the pages of the speech as the president dropped them to the floor. A man in the audience called out, "What shall we do with the rebels?" Someone answered, "Hang them!" Before the president could answer, Tad piped up, "No, we must hang on them." Sometimes Tad understood his father better than anyone else. President Lincoln wanted to hang onto the defeated Southern states. He wanted to make them feel that once again they were part of the Union. He wasn't interested in revenge. Lincoln was a remarkable president and a remarkable man. He hoped to turn his enemies back into his friends. Then there's the picture. Chapter 1. Life in a Log Cabin. The man who was often called America's greatest president was born on February 12, 1809, in a crude log cabin in Kentucky, 18 feet long and 16 feet wide. It had a dirt floor and no windows. Here you can see the log cabin. His father, Thomas Lincoln, was hardworking and quiet, famous for his honesty. He'd had little schooling, just enough to sign his name. Abraham's mother, Nancy Hanks Lincoln, was intelligent and curious. She could read a little, but couldn't write at all. The Lincolns were poor. They moved from one small farm to another, trying to scratch out a living. When Abraham was 7, the family moved from Kentucky to India. main reason for the move was that Kentucky was a slave state, while India was a free state. The Lincoln family hated slavery. Abraham later said that he was naturally anti-slavery as far back as he could remember. Eventually, the Lincolns ended up on a tiny farm in Illinois. Even as small children, Abraham and his older sister Sarah worked hard. Abraham was tall and strong for his age. By the time he was 8, he could pick up an axe and split wood as well as any man. He also helped with the plowing and harvesting, but not hunting. When he was 7 years old, he shot a wild turkey and discovered that he hated killing things. When Abraham was 9, his mother died. It was a terrible loss for him and his sister. Thomas Lincoln couldn't raise the children by himself. Their home was miles from most other people. So he went back to Kentucky and returned with a new wife. That's violent and that's mean. Because if you leave your children in India by themselves and you go to Kentucky and you get a new wife and come back and then the kids don't even know who that person is, they'll just be like, Dad, why did you come with this person? Why did you come back with this person? I don't know. And then your dad will have to say, well, since your mother died, I got a new wife so that you have a new mother because I can't raise you guys. I can't raise you people, you little kids, by myself. Why can't he just say, I can't raise you by myself. We need to go find a friend of mine or something to help me raise you. At least he could have found a friend. Well, anyway, here's the pictures. Sarah Bush Johnston was a widow with three children. She brought her furniture with her real beds, a table, and chairs that seemed like amazing luxuries to the Lincoln children. Much as he missed his own mother, Abraham quickly came to love Sarah. She encouraged all his interests. He called her Mama and was much closer to her than to his own father. Because of Sarah, Abraham remembered his childhood as a happy time. With so much work to do, there wasn't much time for schooling. Anyway, out in the wilderness, there weren't many schools. In Kentucky, Abraham had gone to an ABC school, where he had learned the alphabet, but not how to read or write. In India, he sometimes went to a blab school, a place where all the students said their lessons out loud together. The schoolmaster listened and tried to pick out their mistakes through the noise. Abraham finished with school for good at the age of 15. Altogether, he had gone for only about a year, but he had learned how to read. Now he could teach himself anything he wanted. He read every book he could find. He once walked 20 miles to borrow one. It took him a long time to finish a book. Many Lincoln's books is right here. This is just like a little part where you can read. Most of the books Abraham Lincoln read as a child were ones his stepmother, Sarah, brought with her when she married his father. There was a Bible, of course, and also Aesop's fables. He loved these fables, which taught him how to use funny little stories to make important points. He memorized passages from Shakespeare and could still recite them when he was president. Another favorite book was a biography of George Washington. As a child, though, Lincoln couldn't have known that someday he would be considered just as great as a president. And now, continuing on the other sentence. Many people thought he seemed slow and plodding, but his stepmother understood why he took so long to learn. He wanted to be sure he really understood everything. Sometimes he'd learn part of a book by heart. Because paper was expensive and hard to get, he wrote out passages on a piece of wood. When the wood got so black he couldn't see what he was writing, he would shave it off. Then he would start over again. People liked Abraham. He was so good at telling funny stories, he was almost famous for practical jokes. He once managed to have two men who were getting married on the same day delivered to the wrong brides. People were still talking about this joke years later. Chapter 2. The Wider World. Okay. I'm going to read this book by chapters so that you can read this chapter, and then go to the next part. That's the other chapter. So I'm going to end this video here and then make another video to read the second chapter. So